Morbid Facts That You Didn't Know About the Titanic, Part 2. The owner of Macy's died on the Titanic. He refused to board a lifeboat before women and children, and his wife refused to leave without him. They were last seen holding hands on the deck and were portrayed as the old couple in the movie who were laying down as the ship sank. The first movie about the sinking of the Titanic was released only 29 days after the tragedy. The lead actress was an actual survivor and suffered a severe mental breakdown after filming. A businessman from Uruguay survived the fire and sinking of a ship in 1871, leaving him emotionally scarred. 41 years later, he finally got over his fears and decided to sail again, only to die in the sinking of that new ship, the Titanic. The Titanic is being corroded by a unique form of bacteria that eats rusted iron. Scientists say it may only have another 12 years before it's gone forever. Scientists who first discovered the platypus thought it was fake. They assumed that an egg-laying, duck-billed, venomous mammal with the tail of a beaver had to be an elaborate hoax. Standing at 380 feet tall, Hyperion is the largest known living tree in the world. Located somewhere in California, its exact location is kept a secret to protect it from vandals. A Japanese zoo once tried to mate a pair of hyenas for 4 years before realizing that they were both males. This resilient tree had all of its soil washed away but still refused to die. These are some examples of animals that are bilateral gynandromorphs. It's a genetic mutation that causes one of their first cells to be male and the other to be female. The result is an extraordinary animal that's male on one side and female on the other. After filming Psycho, actress Janet Leigh was so terrified of showers that she only took baths for 35 straight years. On the extremely rare occasion that she did take a shower, she made sure that every door in the house was locked and left the shower curtain open. An Indian actor named Shyam risked his life to transform for a role. He went 9 straight days without sleep so that the tissues under his eyes would swell up. Robert De Niro's character famously played Russian roulette in the movie Deer Hunter. When filming the scene, De Niro suggested using a real bullet to raise the tension of the actors. The actor who played the xenomorph alien was a 6'10" man from Nigeria. He was discovered by the casting team in a local pub, and it was the only time he appeared in a movie. Ancient Discoveries, Part 13. Archaeologists in New Mexico have found the longest prehistoric human trail ever discovered. It's more than a mile long in an area that was full of predators during the Ice Age. The footprints belong to a young adult and a toddler, likely a mother and her child. She was in a hurry and sometimes carried the child on her back. This 9,000-year-old cave painting was discovered in Tassili Cave in Algeria. It is a depiction of a shaman during a psychedelic mushroom trip. Some things just never change. This 1,800-year-old carving of a pecker was found near Hadrian's Wall in England. In 1992, a man from Great Britain was using a metal detector to find a lost hammer on his farm, but instead he stumbled upon one of the largest collections of ancient Roman coins in the world. The 1,500-year-old treasure consisted of nearly 15,000 coins. Here are the weirdest war facts from parts 1 through 25. In 1973, the US Army developed an anti-tank grenade by hollowing out a Nerf football and filling it with explosive charges. However, the ball never made it to the battlefield since the explosives gave it an unpredictable flight. According to the Geneva Conventions, if you play dead to kill an enemy during a war scenario, then you are committing a war crime. During World War II, it was common for soldiers to keep photos of their loved ones under transparent grips on their pistols. They were known as sweetheart grips. When Soviet forces were pushing toward Berlin during World War II, a Nazi SS soldier was forced to play piano for his captors. They made it clear to him in sign language that he would be executed the minute he stopped playing. So he played for 22 straight hours, after which he collapsed in tears. They congratulated him, then shot him. These are some morbid facts that you didn't know about the Holocaust. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was shot in West Germany in 1970. But producers had a hard time finding little people to cast as Oompa Loompas since so many of them had been killed off during the Holocaust. Many survivors were too weak to digest food even after they were rescued. As a result, about half the survivors from Auschwitz died within days of being liberated. Just one day before the Germans surrendered, Allied forces mistook SS Cap Arcona as a Nazi warship and sank it. But the ship had been carrying 7,000 men, women, and children who were concentration camp survivors. There was a famous Jewish boxer named Salomo Aruch who was imprisoned at Auschwitz. He was forced to fight fellow prisoners and the loser was sent to the gas chambers. He survived more than 200 fights over a 2-year span until the camp was liberated. One of the original 5 Japanese cities that the US planned on nuking was its former capital, Kyoto. The only reason it wasn't bombed was because US Secretary of War Henry Stimson spent his honeymoon there and called it a nice place. So instead of Kyoto, they chose Nagasaki. Roman Emperor Caligula once declared war on Neptune, god of the seas. His men ran at the ocean and stabbed the water for a short time before surrendering. World War II ace pilot Douglas Bader flew with no legs. This became a surprising advantage against G-force, making him less likely to pass out. A quiet American prisoner of war was nicknamed the Incredibly Stupid One by Vietnamese captors. But upon his return to the US, he provided the names of 200 other prisoners of war, which he had memorized to the tune of Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Archaeologists have discovered dwarf crocodiles living in remote caves in the African country of Gabon. After living in complete darkness, their skin has turned orange and they are nearly blind. These weird cave crocodiles may be in the process of evolving into an entirely new species. In the town of Churchill, Manitoba, it is deemed common courtesy to keep your car doors unlocked. This is so that townspeople can have a quick escape if they ever come across a wild polar bear. In 2007, a giant bowhead whale was caught off the coast of Alaska with an old harpoon point embedded in its neck. Further examination revealed that the fragment dated back to the year 1880, indicating that the whale had survived a human attack that took place over a century ago. This also proved to scientists that bowhead whales are the longest living mammals in the world. Astronomer Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto in 1930 and investigated it throughout his whole life. He died in 1997 at the age of 90, less than a decade before the New Horizons launch to Pluto. His ashes were launched on the spacecraft to honor his final wish, and he was able to visit the planet that he discovered. The last time all humans were on Earth together was on November 2nd in the year 2000. At least one person has been on the International Space Station ever since. This photo taken from 1,000,000 miles away shows an extremely rare view of the far side of the moon. Since the launch of Sputnik in 1957, humans have littered the space around us with thousands of satellites. In the future, this may make it dangerous to leave the planet, and we may become forever trapped in our own garbage. Before the invention of ultrasound, parents often had no idea what they were getting. Accordingly, this photo from 1946 shows a man passing out with excitement after finding out that his wife just had triplets. These are what the marble steps look like in the Leaning Tower of Pisa after 500 years of people walking on them. A lot of old movie theaters had cry rooms where you could bring your children to if they were becoming too disruptive. This way you could still enjoy the movie without disrupting other moviegoers. In 1913, a 12-year-old black girl named Sarah Rector was given land unsuitable for farming. But it turned out to be rich with oil and she became a millionaire overnight. She was known as the richest colored girl in the world, and Oklahoma legislation made an effort to have her legally declared white. Here are some morbid facts that you didn't know about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The cleanup crew of firemen were told that vodka would protect them from the radiation. Some of them knew that this was a complete lie and it was otherwise a suicide mission. But no one knew how truly horrific the actual effects would be. Vasily Ignatchenko was one of the first firefighters to respond to the leak. After being exposed, he suffered in constant excruciating pain for 18 days before dying. He excreted blood every hour and coughed up pieces of his own internal organs in those final days. When Pripyat was evacuated, people weren't allowed to bring their pets with them. Instead, squads were sent door to door to shoot the animals so that they wouldn't escape and spread the radiation. Today, Pripyat lies completely abandoned, and experts say it will remain this way for another 20,000 years. In 1985, a black bear was found dead due to a cocaine overdose in a forest in Georgia. The bear had eaten 76 pounds of cocaine out of a duffel bag that fell from the plane of a drug smuggler. Shortly before dying, he was probably the most dangerous apex predator on the planet. This photo of a kidney stone under an electron microscope shows you why they're so painful. Bruce Lee's son Brandon was accidentally killed on the set of The Crow when he was only 28 years old. A prop gun was loaded improperly, causing dummy bullets to fire at him with the same force as live ammunition. In 2014, Harvard University discovered that 2 books in their library were bound using human skin. One of the books is called Destinies of the Soul. In the book, the author wrote a note that said, "A book about the human soul deserved to have a human covering." These are some of the weirdest births ever recorded. Yep, that's a pregnant baby. This extremely rare condition is known as fetus in fetu and happens when a baby's body absorbs the embryo of its twin. In 1935, a pregnant Alton Jordan fell 40 feet into a well and gave birth to a healthy baby boy named Frank. The infant remained underwater for 45 minutes without breathing until both were rescued. In 2016, a baby girl named Lindley was born twice. A Nigerian surgeon removed her from the womb to cut a tumor on her spine. He then put her back, and 12 weeks later, Lindley was born healthy. In 1939, 5-year-old Lena Medina became the youngest confirmed person to ever give birth. Her son was born by C-section and was raised as her brother. Medina is still alive today, but has never revealed the father nor the circumstances of her impregnation. Giant stick insects known as tree lobsters were thought to be wiped out by rats in 1920. But in 2001, 24 of them were found in a small bush on an island called Ball's Pyramid. No one knows how they got there, but they were the last known survivors of the species until scientists started breeding them. 44 years ago today was the first and only time that snow was recorded in Miami, Florida. Sea urchins sometimes cover themselves with rocks for protection, so if you give them tiny hats, they'll wear them. In the 1930s, a flute player had a pet lyrebird that mimicked his music. Eventually, he released the bird into the wild. But fragments of the flute player's music were passed down by generations of lyrebirds and are still present in their songs today. A pig named Lulu saved her owner's life while the woman was having a heart attack. The pig heard the cries of pain, ran outside into the road, and played dead to stop the traffic. One driver stopped, the pig led him to the trailer, and he called 911 after hearing the woman screaming. This is a photo of 2 surgeons after removing a set of brain tumors during a 32-hour surgery. In 2001, an abused lion cub, tiger cub, and bear cub were all found in a drug dealer's basement. They were all moved to Noah's Ark Sanctuary in Georgia and became inseparable friends for life. In 2012, Anthony Omari took a machete to the face while defending a Kenyan orphanage against attacking thieves. He saved 37 orphans, and his story helped raise over $80,000 for the orphanage. These photos show what 4 years of fighting in World War II did to the face of a young Soviet man. As the museum caption reads, the first face looks at you, the second face looks through you. During World War I, a carrier pigeon named Cher Ami was shot, blinded, and had her leg blown off. But she was still able to deliver an important message and save the lives of nearly 200 men. About 2,000 tons of unexploded bombs are still found in Germany each year. In the Vietnam War, American sniper Carlos Hathcock was a legend in the U.S. Marine Corps with his 93 confirmed kills. During one instance, he volunteered to crawl for 3 days across 2,000 meters of open field containing an enemy headquarters. He took a single shot that killed a North Vietnamese general and crawled back out without being spotted. This is a snapping turtle buried in mud after coming out of hibernation. It's where the Native American legend of the earth being brought into existence and carried on the shell of a giant turtle came from. This is the skull of an elephant. In ancient Greece, the nasal cavity in the cranium was mistaken for an eye hole, and thus the legend of the Cyclops was born. Similarly, it's believed that dragons originated from ancient peoples discovering fossils of dinosaurs. This illusion is an example of a fata morgana. It's a mirage that causes the object to appear distorted due to bending rays of light. It can happen to nearly any large, distant object, including boats, buildings, and islands. It's also believed that this illusion created the myth of the Flying Dutchman. There's a tribe in India that has learned how to train the roots of fig trees to create natural suspension bridges. These bridges can span over 100 feet and last up to 600 years. After colliding with a propeller, this loggerhead sea turtle received a 3D printed titanium jaw. The lobster has changed very little over the last 100 million years and is known for its unusual anatomy. Its brain is located in its throat, its teeth are in its stomach, and its kidneys are in its head. It also hears using its legs and tastes with its feet. The red-crested tree rat is a species of rodent that was thought to be extinct for over 100 years. But in 2011, one appeared outside of an eco lodge in Colombia and let researchers photograph it for 2 hours. It then disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. After donating blood for the first time, a 21-year-old Canadian woman has lost the ability to move her right arm. The nurse accidentally drew blood from an artery instead of a vein, causing damage that was permanent. During his reign, Genghis Khan killed so many people that it was actually good for the environment. The 40 million or so deaths he was responsible for dropped the Earth's carbon levels by an estimated 700 million tons. Morgan Freeman says he always wears his earrings because they're worth just enough to pay for a coffin if he happened to die in a strange place. Back in the 1500s, doctors thought that cutting open infants' gums would encourage their teeth to grow. Unfortunately, many of these children ended up dying due to severe mouth infection. In 2014, an 11-year-old boy was in the passenger seat when his 79-year-old grandfather collapsed at the wheel. Using skills he picked up from playing Grand Theft Auto, the boy managed to grab the wheel and steer the car to safety until help arrived. After the loss of their newborn daughter, Nathan Steffel and his wife were devastated that they never got to see her without tubes. So Nathan went to Reddit to see if anyone would be willing to Photoshop this image. His request was quickly flooded with drawings, paintings, and support from thousands of Redditors. In 2014, 3-year-old Marina Chikatova survived in the Siberian wilderness for 11 days with no one other than her dog for company. She ate wild berries, drank from a river, and curled up with her dog for warmth. She was saved when her dog managed to find her village and guide rescuers toward her. In 2015, a woman from Florida was being held hostage by her boyfriend, but luckily she convinced him to let her order a pizza using the Pizza Hut app. In the space for special requests, she wrote, "Please help, get 911 to me." Police soon arrived at the location and the abusive boyfriend was arrested. When he was 17 years old, Ozzy Osbourne was arrested for stealing women's underwear. But his father refused to pay the fine and Ozzy spent 6 weeks in jail. He later called it one of the best lessons of his life. 2 thieves once broke into a man's home in England and stole his laptop. But in his files, they found some serious child abuse material and brought the laptop to police. The pedophile got 3 years in jail and the burglars served 12 months of community service. During his time with the Air Force, the famous Johnny Cash worked as a Morse code operator. This led to him intercepting and reporting on the news from the Soviet Union that Joseph Stalin had died. In fact, Johnny Cash might have been the first American to hear of Stalin's passing. During World War I, the life of a 17-year-old British soldier was saved when his pocket Bible stopped a bullet. The book has been passed down through his family and still has the bullet inside, about 50 pages from the end. During World War II, there was a Nazi interrogator named Hans Scharf who never tortured his prisoners to get information. Instead, he told them jokes, brought them homemade food, and took them on nature walks. His techniques were very successful as he was known as the master interrogator of Nazi Germany. Here are some morbid facts that you didn't know about 9/11. In 1983, professional climber Dan Goodwin illegally climbed the North Tower of the World Trade Center. He said he was trying to call attention to the inability to rescue trapped occupants of the upper levels of skyscrapers. Out of the 343 firefighters that perished on 9/11, Daniel Sir was the first. He died when a woman who jumped from one of the towers landed on him. A Only one non-military plane was allowed to fly after all commercial flights were forced to land. It was delivering antivenom to a snake handler in Florida who was bitten by the extremely venomous taipan snake. The only off-duty NYPD officer who was killed in 9/11 had signed his retirement papers that morning. But instead of leaving his badge, John William Perry decided to pick it up one last time. 8,500 feet up the slope of Mount Everest, a creepy marker serves as a guide for climbers. Known as the Green Boots, everyone approaching the summit from the north side must pass by Suang Paljor's body. It's seen as a milestone because it's an indication of just how close one is to the top of the mountain. A 17-year-old boy from Mexico City died after his girlfriend gave him a hickey. The suction resulted in a blood clot that traveled to the brain, eventually causing a stroke. In 2003, David and Tina Watson were scuba diving on their honeymoon in the Great Barrier Reef. When currents became too rough, David, an experienced diver, swam to the surface while his wife struggled in panic. This photo captures Tina lying helplessly on the sea floor in her final moments before drowning. Blue American Rabbit was developed in 1917 by Louis H. Salisbury. Although it's natural, he never revealed what breeds he used to create this variety. In 1998, Honduras built a bridge over the Choluteca River, but the water was rerouted by Hurricane Mitch that same year. This mutated octopus with 85 tentacles was captured on an island near Japan. Known for its protrusible jaw and nail-like teeth, the goblin shark has only been seen about 50 times since its discovery in 1897. In 1493, Christopher Columbus mistook manatees for mermaids and wrote, "They're not so beautiful as they're said to be, since their faces have some masculine traits." In 1961, the son of U.S. Vice President Nelson Rockefeller went missing during an expedition in Papua New Guinea. Although he was declared legally dead in 1964 since his body was never recovered, some say this is him as part of a cannibalistic tribe in 1969. Up until 1974, it was illegal to appear in public in the city of Chicago if you were ugly. Each offense was subject to a $1 fine, which would be $20 today. Years before the introduction of colored photographs, a chemist and photographer from Russia created the most basic version of one. He combined 3 regular black and white photos, each through a filter of red, green, and blue. He then merged them to create a beautiful image with color. This image taken by him is over 100 years old.